Okay, so welcome everyone to Workshop A, where we intend to discuss business and negotiation for effective collaboration with academia. First of all, I would like to thank my distinguished guests that have agreed to participate in this workshop and share their experience of working with academia. Dr. Yael Grunbaum-Cohen, General Manager, Madison Ventures, and online, hope you will hear us soon, Dr. Aldemar de Groot, Director, External Innovation, Lead EU, Canada and Partner Markets, Biogen. Dr. Tamaraz, CEO of Adacit Medical Research Services and Development. Dr. Dana Baron, Senior Director, Head of Academic Affairs and Network, Teva Pharmaceutical. Dr. Noga Yerushalmi, I have to be a doctor also, because everyone's a doctor here. Okay, Dr. Noga Yerushalmi, Head of Bioincubator, Head of Pimatics Merit Ventures. And finally, and the only man here, we are majority and I'm proud of it, women majority. Dr. Aviv Zeevi Balasiano, VP, Technology Infrastructure Division, Israel Innovation Authority. Thank you all for making the time and participating in this session. The common ground for all speakers here, for all the speakers here, including myself, is the wish to strengthen Israeli-academia relationship and the acknowledgement that this mission is not trivial and has multiple challenges in light of the different characteristics and culture of each entity. My close partner here, and there is a reason why I call them partners, because they are partners to the way, will share their unique angle about working with academia. We have here VC, multinational, government and TTO representatives, so this will cover a wide perspective. Each speaker will have about 8 minutes to present his subject, and then we will take questions and comments from the other panelists and the audience. Yael, you and Aldemar are our first speakers, so please go ahead.
So let's start by introducing ourselves. My name is Yael Greenbaum, Dr. Yael Greenbaum. I'm the General Manager of Madison Ventures, which is the corporate venture arm of Madison Pharma. I would like to thank Karen and Tami, who besides being the most professional people I've worked with, are friends and cohort members from 8400 team. And I would like to thank them because we are starting and trying to build a mutual language for all the different silos in Israel, and we see this as a mission. I could not be more proud to stand here representing an Israeli company that's going global, starting here from Israel and trying to influence the world. We do not have our own R&D in medicine, but we have amazing partners worldwide who are bringing, we're bringing their innovative therapies to Israel, Canada, and Central Eastern Europe. We're bringing these therapies, choosing them one by one, and we're bringing these therapies together with the Israeli academia. So in the past few years, we've signed a few research and option deals with the Israeli tech transfer offices. And I hope with the discussion with Aldemar, who has sort of an international experience working with the different organizations worldwide, we can together give you our thoughts and feedback on how we see things from our perspective. So very happy to have you with us, Aldemar, and happy if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, great, thank you. I mean, it's a bit difficult still to hear you, so please be very close to the microphone, because then I can hear you. But if you step away from it, then, a bit more, then I can't hear you anymore. So just to let you know. But thanks for the introduction. So good morning, everyone. My name is Aldemar de Groot. I work with External Innovation at Biogen. I'm based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. It's very rainy here today, as usual. And I scout for opportunities in Europe, in Israel, and also Canada. And before I joined Biogen, I worked at a number of pharmaceutical companies, including Eli Lilly, Boehringer, Stellas, and for years I also worked as an entrepreneur, and I spun a company out of Stellas. And at Biogen, we consider ourselves to be pioneers in neuroscience, so that's really our main focus. It's always called neuroscience, it's our primary focus. And we have a specific interest in movement and neuromuscular disorders, in psychiatry, in multiple sclerosis, which is really our franchise, and in Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia.
So I thought it would be interesting for the teams here to answer 4 questions. So the first one is, why should we even work with academia, right? As a venture team, it's easier for us to just invest in a private company. Just to invest the equity, it's already the risk. Someone has already checked the patent, took it out. Negotiation times are easier. You're usually syndicated, right? So that's the first question we'll talk about. Then we'll ask how. How should we work with academia? And we'll even, let's say, wink to the question, why the academia in Israel? The third question is, what are we looking for and how we're looking for it? And that's, I think, the most interesting thing from Biogen, who are growing and expanding their oversee and outlook in the academia these days, with Aldemar leading it in our region. And then we'll share with you how we de-risk our projects that we pull from the academia. So let's start with the why. I can tell you that in Medison Ventures, we're very careful in what we invest in the academia. And the reason for that is that what we've seen in Israel in the past, let's say, decade, is companies coming, investing in academic relationships, and then neglecting the projects in the middle. So each one of these projects that we want to invest in, we want to see it translate to the patients. We don't want to invest in 50, we want to invest in technologies that we know will help patients eventually. I think that's what we're all here for, right? We want to change lives of patients. And why work with academia? Because it's there, because we can ask the right questions. Together with Itzik's team in Yisum, we are changing lives of a baby girl who has a mutation in HNR and PH2. We worked together with Professor Rotem Karni. It was a hard beginning. Itzik will share my feelings. And we had to overcome it, sometimes by crying to the other tech transfer offices, trying to understand why we speak a different language from you. Why is there such a big gap of trust? But we did it. We found the solution, signed the agreement, and together are helping a little girl have maybe a life she wasn't supposed to have. And that's something you can never do in a company that's independent. So happy to hear your thoughts, Aldemar.
Yeah, sure. And by the way, I can hear you really well now. So we always like this question. And, of course, a lot of great innovation comes from academia. And a lot of times academia can provide the innovation that we ourselves cannot as being a bigger company. So we always look at academia to provide that sort of innovation for us. And also academic research is oftentimes still very early. So we also feel that if we get involved early on with academic institutions in academic research, we can also help provide some input and maybe help shape that research in a way that Biogen would like. So also from that perspective, we really like to work with academia and get involved with early stage partnerships and collaborations. We sometimes find that once an idea has spun into a company, it just gets more complicated. And also the company may be going in the wrong direction, for us at Biogen. So again, we really like to sort of build these ties to academia, also specifically in Israel, because Israel is a bit of an unknown landscape to us, of course. The Biogen is very US-centric, so US we understand very well. Europe, we have a lot of people in Europe, so Europe to some extent we also have a good understanding as to what to look for. Israel's a bit different to us, it's still a bit unknown. But we find and we think that having these ties to academia can really help us sort of establish ourselves in Israel and really get an understanding as to what is going on in Israel at the academic level. And then from there, make the investment in these sort of early stage partnerships in academia and branch out, maybe at some point, together spin out companies from academia and so forth. So I think from that perspective, both sides can benefit from this approach, and that academia can provide much needed innovation for Biogen and also geographical presence. And we can provide, our deep expertise in drug development and also resources.
I completely agree with what you said, and we believe that while Israel was unknown, if we look today objectively, let's say at what's happening in the Canadian hubs, which is let's say OECD equivalent to Israel and financially equivalent to Israel. just maybe we have some cultural differences. Israel went wild this year with dozens of companies spinning out of the tech transfer offices, I think even on, I would like to say on a weekly basis, but slowing down in the past few months. Either people are clogged, legally clogged, which is one of our challenges with working with tech transfer offices in Israel, but so many opportunities. And the next thing I wanted to discuss with you is the how to work with the academia. And I can say from our perspective...
Yeah, maybe I could just add to the why.
Happy.
Something, a piece of information.
Sorry, Aldemar, Karen Primor, Dr. Karen Primor is speaking.
I'm not a doctor. Just to feel comfortable with the other panelists, I can,
It was a joke
one for today.
It was the joke that she's the only non-doctor on the panel.
Okay, so just to let you know, for you, those that doesn't know it, there is an increase in the pace of establishment of startups from universities and hospitals, as opposed to a decrease of establishment of startups in Israel. So this is something that the the government gathered information from all the entities, and I think this is the why, because we are here, because we know how to do it, because we show that there is an increasing pace in the facilitation and establishment of startups, and I think it's going to grow and grow even better.
Yeah, I think, we always look at Israel as being a great startup nation. You know what I mean? There's so much innovation, and also sort of entrepreneurial mindset that people in Israel have, which we really respect. So, what you say makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Karen, for that important and true note. We see it as well, both the decrease in startups and the increase in academic indications. And there's a question of the how to work. Is it fair to, we say, pee like a puppy, just go and buy all these projects? Or should the tech transfer offices from their side be very careful who they work with and on which project? And how do you de-risk as tech transfer offices who your partner is going to be with each product, and how do we choose our products? So I can share that the how is being very, very patient. Everyone here knows that the pace in the industry is different from the pace in the academia, not the tech transfer office, the academia. And the tech transfer offices, in my perspective, are supposed to bridge that pace between the scientist and the company. For example, if we have to wait 3 months for a return of an agreement when there is a sick child we want to help, or just we want to make a return of investment, is that a reasonable, agreeable timeline for us? Shouldn't there be like an unwritten agreement or a written agreement how fast we can execute things in the academia? Otherwise, we're waiting a year and working with paces that are different from other countries. So happy to hear your thoughts, Aldemar, and also Karen, from your perspective, also in other life sciences.
Yeah, should I start?
Sure.
Yeah. So first, a couple of things. So first, regarding the process, we find it as well internally. We want a different process for sort of early stage companies in academia than we do for the larger sort of transactions. And that sometimes can still be a real bottleneck for us, because it involves a bit of a paradigm shift internally. You know, that we sort of split that up into a much more aligned, facilitated process and something that sort of takes a longer amount of time. So that's sometimes been a bit of an internal, almost frustration, I would say, that we're trying to also navigate around and trying to improve, but it's ongoing. And then in terms of how we like to work as technology transfer officers, sort of two things. So on the one hand, we like to approach the technology transfer officers and tell them we're a point of contact for innovation in neuroscience, in that geography. We're always on the lookout for new innovative ideas and collaborations within neuroscience. And as such, we would really welcome also regular updates from the transfer offices regarding projects that could be of interest to Biogen. So it's a bit of both, so reaching out, but also getting information back from the technology transfer offices. Something that we find incredibly helpful with the technology transfer office itself comes with the research project that's sort of primed for investment by Biogen. We find that sort of saves us a lot of time. So that goes back to the timelines, that you mentioned. So that really helps us facilitate a lot of things because then we can simply sort of review those research projects and make an investment based on that, as opposed to trying to come up with something in sort of collaborative fashion. So we really appreciate that, when that happens. And that just saves us a lot of time in many ways. The other thing is, of course, we like to hear about novel generated IP. And that is also more for the potential then to spin out companies from academia. So this is something that's, of course, of high interest to us. And now we're starting to think more about drug development, when we talk about IP, and if we can actually, is the IP strong enough for us to bring this forward and push into the clinic and eventually hopefully bring that to patients. So that's a great trigger point for us as well. Is the novel generated IP that can be shared and can be envisioned how this could be used in order to spin a company out of academia and beyond. So these are two ways that we try to look at technology transfer office and how we like to work with that.
Yes, but after that, I apologize, but we will have to move to the next speaker because we don't have enough time. When you said that you know corporates, and then you said the pace in transaction, I thought you mean that it takes time for the corporate to provide drafts, because from our perspective, a lot of times it's all the drafts and all the information is getting stuck in the corporate under the acknowledgement that it's a corporate, you have multinational divisions, and it takes time. And most of the times we wait for draft from the multinationals and not the opposite. But I guess you can have different experiences with different TTOs, because I have to say, not everyone has in-house legal counsel, and not anyone has enough manpower to do the transaction as fast as you would like to. Maybe setting the expectations. And each tech transfer knows how much time it takes for it to deliver a draft or to close a deal. And maybe setting the expectation at the beginning of the transaction, taking into consideration the size of the tech transfer and the fact that maybe he's hiring an outside lawyer or something like that, will be helpful, in managing it and with the trust issues that you mentioned before. But I have to say that from Ramot's perspective, sometimes the frustration is from the other side.
Of course, that's I think that's the reason we're all here together. Maybe I will let Aldemar for a minute to mention what Biogen are looking for.
Yeah.
They're going to be highly involved in the academia in Israel now, and it's a good opportunity first for all of you to get to know him. He leads it from Biogen, and Aldemar, if you could say a few words.
Yeah, sure. So, as mentioned to some extent before, we have a lot of interest in movements and neuromuscular disorders. Psychiatry, we made a big push in psychiatry a few months ago with an acquisition of a clinical stage asset from Sage. So Sage is, a company focused on depression. Multiple sclerosis has always been our franchise, so we have a lot of interest in multiple sclerosis and sort of maintaining our leading position in that field. Alzheimer's, of course, as everybody now knows, we have a lot of interest in Alzheimer's and other dementia indications. Beyond that, we're modality agnostic, but we have a lot of interest in gene therapy. And in fact, when it comes to gene therapy, we think academia could be very interesting, because we find if something is a bit more advanced in gene therapy, then a lot of other people already know about it, and we tend to be too late. But if something's still a bit early in the innovative stage in academia, we could get involved earlier on and really sort of cement our position in that innovative technology in gene therapy. So there we think that academia could be very interesting to sort of help us fill a gap in gene therapy. And we have made a lot of investments there. Biomarkers are always of high interest to us, so here we're really thinking about, okay, how can we use biomarkers to help develop something? And we do find, again, that a lot of interest in biomarker technology comes from academia. So this could be diagnostic biomarkers, it could be biomarkers that help sort of guide efficacy, this could be primary endpoint. It could be digital biomarkers, those are becoming more and more sort of interesting and validated in terms of drug development. So we always look for that as well. So those things, that's what we're looking for.
So I want to thank again Tammy and Karen and Aldemar. We are here to help you connect whatever everyone needs, and I wish us all to help together many patients together.
Thank you very much, Yael and Aldemar. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so our next speaker in another subject is Dr. Tabaraz.
So I would like to maybe touch upon a few points that were mentioned now, and this is from the other side of the table, of the negotiation table. I wanted to put a spotlight on business development people in our offices, in the technology transfer companies and offices that we have in Israel. And unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe in the last 2 years, many of us are looking for new stuff because of many reasons and because of the market changing. And by reviewing people and talking with candidates, it made me thinking, what exactly are we looking for? What is the secret sauce of a good business development person in a technology transfer office that will make the deals happen? And that's the main reason why we are here. And actually, it's a complex question. And often, when speaking with people that came to TTOs from the industry mainly, after a few months of working in the TTO, we hear, wow, we never imagined this is going to be so complicated and that you're working so hard. It's not an academia, it's much more like a very busy business place. So when thinking about what is needed, it's really the other side of the same question. What do we need to be good partners, to make fast and good deals, and to be good partners along the way? Because nothing stops the day after you sign the agreement. And I tried to concentrate this question or this issue to few main challenges, or three of our main challenges when we act and active at the TTO. The first one is we need to find good translators. Really, our business is to be very good and high-level translators, because translating from the academic language to the business language is even more complicated than translating from English to Chinese, let's say. These are totally different languages, and we need to pick and take the project, the innovation, the scientific project in the university or hospital or research institution and transfer it to the business language in a way that you guys will be interested in, and it has totally different structure to it that the scientists didn't think about, and that's a challenge. So the people in the business development sections of our companies need to be people that understand the science but also understand the business. The second challenge is the way we work with our inventors. So you guys or you companies see this maybe when the projects are more advanced, but for us in the TTO companies, it's very complicated and challenging. Think about a regular company that's selling a product or providing some service. This company knows very good who are its suppliers and who are its customers. You buy stuff from your suppliers, you buy ingredients from your suppliers, you do your thing, and then you sell or you provide service to your customers. In the TTO, our suppliers are our #1 customers. We are first of all service companies to our institutions. Our main goal is to give a good service to the institution, to the inventors, to make sure that their babies, and they treat these as their babies, go to the right hands. So it's a complicated task to be in. I think it's a kind of half degree in psychology even. And our ability to do the whole transfer and have our customers happy all along the way, this is something that the industry needs to appreciate and understand how complicated this is. And the third challenge, not the last one of course, but the third challenge that I would like to put light on is the need to manage multiple conflicts in parallel all the time. When you take a technology and you start to develop it and to work with the professors, with the inventors, and you want to take it all the way to the other side of companies and business, you start managing conflicts from day zero. It's the conflicts between the inventors and their own institutions. It's sometimes the conflicts between the institution and the TTO because the needs and the language is not always the same. It's the conflict of an inventor that wants to be part of the company that is created around his idea, but the understanding that when the years will go by and the technology will succeed, the technology will also grow apart from his laboratory or her laboratory, and this is a very painful process. So managing the conflicts and being able to put them on the table and discuss them from day zero, I think it's very, very important, and the ability to do all this will make our business development better, our companies better negotiators, and our deals better towards success of products that will go all the way to the market. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nami. Very interesting, and I fully agree with everything you said. Do we have any questions or comments from the audience regarding this topic?
Sorry, I was just wanted to comment on your thoughts regarding the number of startups. So, if someone doesn't know me, so my name is Aviv, and I am a VP in the Israel Innovation Authority. I'm responsible for, I would say, knowledge creating, responsible anything to do with sponsoring or enhancing applied research in the academia. And of course, as Karen said, we see less and less startups established here in Israel by the open market, and we can see that there are more and more startups established by the academia, and we are trying to follow it. So it means that we will not change it. We are, as a government, we are an enabler, and therefore we need to adjust ourselves. So I fully agree with you. I will talk about it later on, but I fully agree with you with what you said. And sometimes I think it might be easier for the negotiation if you already have a startup established and the IP belong to a different entity, legal entity, which is responsible for the IP itself. So sometimes it's even easier to negotiate with a large corporate or another company, or even to grow. Not necessarily do we need to close a deal, as Tamar said. Let's see who is closing the deal. Maybe the aim is not to close a deal. Maybe the aim is to grow the startup here in Israel and to become a unicorn. And as
that's exactly the conflict.
Yes.
And the different agendas between the Innovation Authority, the institutions, the inventors, the tech transfer offices. And you know, I was this. The what?
The investors.
The investors, of course.
Yeah, the main conflict.
I don't think we can solve the conflict of interest because it's inherited, but I think we need to fully understand it. And if I can add to what Tamar said about the business development person that we would like to see in a tech transfer, first and foremost, we need them to understand the environment, and it takes time to understand each player, what he wants, how does it conflict with the other players, and how can we eventually, and Aviv, it's important to close a deal, and the deal doesn't have to be a full-blown licensing agreement with a multinational company. It can be also even a small thing like evaluation agreement with a company for a POC or to see if a technology is working. So, but first we need to understand everyone's agenda. If we don't understand, then we are, we're stuck in the middle of something that we don't know even how to approach. So I guess, that's the first thing.
I think there is just a matter of a timeline in Israel that we have to patiently oversee during time. So all these startups in biotech, which are starting, many of them to fail now, which is the nature of biotech, we will see their executives, their VP science, their CSOs, their chief business officers that are already experienced in this development, starting new startups, maybe from the academia, maybe a bit later in 5 years when the incubators start growing their companies. I think what we're seeing here is an evolution of an ecosystem, and we can't pinpoint 1 year in this evolution and say startups are going down or up. We have to, all these great minds that have experience from tech transfer offices with academia and the business side, who know how to hold both sides of the knife or eat the cake and leave it full. We'll see it happening. I think we'll see many startup companies because the executives are now growing in our country and not just leaving it. So patiently, I think Israel will become the startup nation in biotech, and we will see full-grown commercial companies in Israel developing their own products. So patience.
Thanks. I would like to emphasize what you said about those translation between different languages. I think it's very important, and the translator, this BD guy, or maybe even the entrepreneur that will lead the company after it is spun out, is very important, both to really translate it and transfer not only the science into a business, but also to, I think, take on board the professor behind it that wants to keep his baby in the academia, but let him understand the process of the tech transfer and why it's important to follow up on a program that will basically and eventually become something commercial. It is two different goals, and the people are the ones to do it. So if you have a good CEO to the company, and he goes hand by hand with the professor and leads him to understand when it's his role and when it's the company to bring it forward, I think it will be a success.
Thank you. Our next speaker is